I am a researcher of the Titanic. A recently discovered artifact has left me traumatized. Part 4. One night, I discovered something in Thomas's memories that chilled me more than the phantom maritime cold that now perpetually surrounded me. He wasn't supposed to be on that ship. His original ticket, for a smaller vessel leaving a week earlier, had been lost. Stolen, actually, by a man whose name was never recorded in any manifest. A man whose face Thomas remembered with a strange, specific terror. A man who seemed to know what was coming. The whispers grew more insistent. No longer just memories of terror and drowning. Now they carried something else. A warning. He is coming. He has always been coming. I realized then that the haunting wasn't about the ship. It was about something much older, much darker, and I was just beginning to understand. Christmas came, and with it a strange peace. The whispers didn't stop, but they changed. Thomas's memories became less a torment and more a companionship. I understood now that he wasn't trying to possess me. He was trying to warn me. Dr. Elizabeth Moreau visited me on Christmas Eve. I hadn't seen her in months, and the concern in her eyes told me I looked as fractured as I felt. "I brought you something," she said, placing an old leather-bound journal on my desk. It was my grandmother's. She was a maritime historian too. I thought you might appreciate it. The journal belonged to a researcher from the 1930s, someone who had been investigating the Titanic long before modern technology made such research easier. As Elizabeth left, I opened the pages. Tucked between yellowed sheets was a photograph, not of the Titanic, not of any passenger, a man, standing alone on a foggy pier. His face, partially obscured, but familiar in a way that made the hair on my neck stand up. The man from Thomas's stolen memory. That night, the wound on my hand, now a living map of maritime tragedy, began to speak differently. No longer desperate whispers of drowning, but something more measured, more intentional. Some stories are meant to be remembered, some warnings must be carried. I understood then that Thomas's spirit wasn't a victim, he was a guardian. The cold that had haunted me for months began to recede, not completely, but enough that I could breathe, enough that I could think clearly. Outside my window, snow fell, pure, silent, and for the first time since touching that artifact, I felt something like hope. The story wasn't over, but I was no longer afraid, at least, not completely. Please subscribe for more stories.